10 will be your tribes moving forward. We take a breath.
All right.
3 more paragraphs to get through.
Should we start?
So, the first decision that you will all make in these newly formed groups involves the infiltration boost. So, both groups of 10 will vote privately for one person to be the infiltrator. You will only reveal the chosen infiltrator, so the person that gets the most votes. We won't reveal your individual votes, and we won't reveal the vote count unless there is a tie.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
if the vote ties, the 5 players place higher in their needs of the challenge among the 2 tribes. So, what that means is the person who got a better time in the mental section has to revote the expansion, all that stuff. And those 5 votes will make up the revote goes to the infiltration list. Starting round 2, you'll keep voting for the infiltrator every round, but your tribe will have to cast a unanimous vote, or you will go to the wheel to decide the infiltrator.
Hello, Aaron. And Liz.
Yeah, it's a lot of old school folks up in here.
I would expect that from the history webinar panel.
So, does everyone here know how to use like the Q&A section? Because like maybe we could also let some folks ask some questions or chime in.
I'm reading the chat. Everyone's saying how old they are.
Yeah. If I have to tell the truth about my age, I'm 28, but I lie and I say I'm 25.
Nice. Well, my birthday's next week, so a little. I'll be a little bit older in a week's time.
Yeah. I'm gonna take off the virtual background for this one. It's a more chill vibe than some of the others.
Well, let me know when we should start this.
I think we might as well.
Okay, so according to the list of events, the first event that we're going to talk about today is the first intercollegiate Quidditch match between Middlebury and Vassar in 2007. So
have fun. I was in grade 10.
Yeah, don't tell me how old you were and where you were in
everyone drop your ASL in the chat for where you were in 2007.
I feel like this is my time to shine. So I was thinking that I feel like I'm Elrond talking to Gandalf in Fellowship and being like, I was there 3,000 years ago. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, I started playing Quidditch in 2006 at Middlebury. And when I started, there were no other teams. Then the next year, we got Vassar to agree to travel to Middlebury to play a match, a Quidditch match with us. But how it worked back then was we had our own intramural Quidditch league. I'll say, okay, here's Sarah.
Yeah, there we go.
We had our own intramural Quidditch league. A lot of people were interested in Quidditch at Middlebury at that time. And we scheduled our, World Cup, which was just this intramural tournament between the 10 teams or so. I'm making up 10. I don't know exactly how many teams there were. But then when Vassar agreed to come to Middlebury, we still had to play our intramural tournament. So we decided to make the stakes of this tournament be the winner would represent Middlebury and play Vassar at the end. So Vassar traveled all the way to Middlebury, watched us play our intramural tournament all day. I was there playing. I was on a team. We were called the Hungry Hippogriffs.
Oh my god. The old school Quidditch names that have like
Yeah.
Harry Potter references in them.
We were neon green. I had really long neon green socks, a neon green cape. We lost in the quarterfinals against the Dynasty Middlebury team. They were called the Molly Wobbles. They pretty much won every year I was at mid. When they won, they then put on, you know, Middlebury, the mid cape that we designed. You know, they were just still wearing their same clothes, but they put on the mid cape to put on like Middlebury's jerseys. And then they played one away game against Vassar at the end of the day. So I felt kind of bad for Vassar because they came all that way to watch us play Quidditch and then played one game at the end of the day. But that team, they were good spirits. They were happy to be there. They had fun playing that game. To prepare for this, I actually watched some of the old game footage of that game that I have to get into this history vibe. If it works, I'll try to post it in the footage in the Slack channel, so you can watch how old school Quidditch was played. Pretty scrappy. The audience was right up against the boundary of the pitch. During the match, an audience member just kicks the quaffle to one of the players.
That was so annoying. unless it was you, then it was great. But like,
no, I was not. I did not kick it.
The other player, it's like, no, come on. That's why you had to make friends.
Mm-hmm. Home court advantage, right? Old school.
Yeah, it was someone in the beginning. I think I saw someone just pull on a player's cape to try and stop their drive to the hoops.
Wait, isn't there footage from like a really, or not footage, but a picture, because I don't think cameras existed back then, of Sarah with a cape at some point? Isn't there like an old thing that used to go around all the forums of you?
I mean, there's a lot of pictures of me with a cape. There's a great one from 2008 when, because Middlebury also used they didn't use 8.5-inch dodgeballs. They used 10-inch kickballs. And like, that was not ideal.
Yeah, Sarah, chat saying you're really quiet. I don't know if you can.
I'm not sure how to fix that, but I'll try.
Just scream into your microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying next. So, I don't know if that worked or not. My red voice, it play. Anyway, yeah, there's a picture of me, and I look like a very small child because I've got the bludger like this, and I've got this jersey on that's way too long. Like, you can't see my shorts, but it doesn't matter how long they are. Those are the longest shorts I ever wore in Quidditch. You can't see them because the jersey is for like an actual adult, and I have yet to reach adult sizes despite being 32. And I've got like, they forced us to wear goggles, which was a bad time because they were lab goggles and they were muddy. And I've got this like headband all on my head. Anyway, I look like I'm about 8 years old, despite being, I was 20 at the time. But like that compared to a picture of me in like a uniform that fits me with an 8.5-inch bludger, it's like, wow, she really grew up in the game. I'm like, no, I was already grown. But
well, there was that picture that you found that you were in, and it turns out like I'm in the background from way back when. And
Yeah, you're filming. That was from
yeah, I'm filming.
2009.
Yeah. So that's always fun. Many years later, you meet the Quidditch people. You find out you're in the background of a photo. You get tagged in it. You're like, oh, that was you. Okay. But yeah. So I don't know if it got posted in the chat in the Slack, but I tried to post the footage. You can watch it at your own risk. But yeah, so Mid scored all the points that game against Vassar. And then that was it, just that one game, and that was World Cup 1.
Wow. I guess like one of the next things we have on this list that was prepared for us, the Australia USA 2016 Global Games game.
So much later.
We can hear you so much better.
You said that's better?
Yeah, like way better.
You fixed your mic.
I switched to a different one, so I didn't know if it would work or not.
Yeah, much better. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's when USA lost.
Yes, I believe that's why they wanted us to talk about this.
Yeah.
We're not going in chronological order at all, folks. Sorry. There's
a
zero.
True.
Like, yeah, and this is gonna be more chill. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely chirp everyone at every moment I get a chance. So yeah, I remember that being a game where you guys lost. Didn't want to fill me in on what happened.
I mean, I was at work, so
I was not at work. I was West Coast. I was in California at the time. It was very early in the morning, not very early, but early in the morning because of time zones. Watching it, obviously rooting for USA. It's neck and neck, snitch range game. Snitch comes on pitch. Margot is the seeker at the time. He does his, run, maybe jump at the snitch, grabs it.
You're talking about the patented fake left dive, right?
I think so. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it was good move most of the time.
Yeah. It looked, I'm not biased at all, but on live stream, the low quality live stream I was watching, it looked like a good catch. But they said, basically a 50-50 call then, whether you're going to call charging on Margot or not at that time. So they said, I think that at least what I was trying to gauge and get from the announcers on the live stream, that I think they called it off because he charged the snitch. And then everyone.
Anyone recall the final score? Like, I really don't remember what the final score was.
I don't remember.
I just know that they lost.
Yeah. I just remember being like, why didn't we should score more points? Like, why are we in this situation?
Yeah.
It was not great, like losing that game, and like it's the same thing that everybody says at the end of a game. It's like, man, if we had not got caught on, we could have won. It's like, yes, but there are a lot of steps that lead to getting caught on that make you lose before that.
Yeah, and like I just remember I don't know where I was, to be honest, because that was the one that was in Germany, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I probably think I was in Toronto. Yeah, I think I was in Toronto with some of the Rochester people were there, back before like COVID was a thing and you could travel across borders.
Yeah.
And we were at Alex Sugar's place in Toronto, and we were just like watching it unfold, and I'm like, this isn't real, right? Like this isn't how scores go, right? Like USA should be winning. Is there something wrong? And then like as the game went on, I was just like more and more giddy. Like I wasn't rooting against you all because I have a lot of friends in your country, but like who doesn't love an underdog, and who doesn't love Australia in general? So it's like, okay, like I'm so here for this moment. But like watching all my friends lose was kind of like bittersweet, like because I know so many people on that team who work so hard. But I don't want to discredit how hard Australia worked either. So, but it was just really fun to watch because you guys like dominated so much. It's like you know.
I mean, it was a perfect example of our complacency. Like, we needed it to happen to us. Like, it's good that it has already happened and isn't yet to happen.
Mhm.
It sucked to see at the time. Like, for me, I was live streaming it on the computer at work, and like my boss was there and was like, "Oh, this is the thing you play? Oh, weren't you on Team USA once? Oh,
Mhm.
wait, what? Why didn't they win? I thought you said that they were good." And I'm just like, "Yeah, they're good, but like Australia also played well. If you look at the fact that like the journey that took them from where they had been to where they were in 2016, which is Australia's progress arc, has been excellent.
Mhm.
And ours was not an arc. It was not happening.
No. And I mean, it did kick
we
off
deserved
like
it.
sort of the whole redeem team thing for you all.
Yeah.
And you could definitely tell that come Italy, like the USA team was not there to play. It was like kind of funny, or not funny, but like
Yeah.
from my
It's
perspective,
not-
it was like really funny to see how try hard they were at that tournament because they had something to actually go back and get.
Well, after the loss, like everyone was just super determined to like make sure you didn't lose, 2 years later. So
Yeah.
I think there were, the next round, like so many people trying out, so many people going to the training camps, like everyone was trying to be like, that's it, we're determined to
I mean,
not
like
lose to Australia again.
the fact that we used it to build a national program rather than just a team that people are on every 2 years if they apply. Oh, what a good dog. Is like that's
I was like,
that's one of the many positives that came out of it. Like the fact that we have a national team program and a development academy, and like all of the like we started doing the training camps. We just started promoting the team more year round and not just every 2 years whenever there's a tournament.
right.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say something before the chat says it. Yes, my dog's name is Augie. No, it's not named after Augie Monroe. My grandpa named this dog, and then it got like passed down on to me when things changed in our family situation. So I did not name him, but he's still cute. You can follow him on Instagram. Aaron, can you drop it in the chat?
Nice.
That's like I chose my number being 99 and I'm from Brooklyn, but it was way before Brooklyn 99. So, but everyone thinks that I just picked my number because of the show. So similar vibe there. But yeah, so Australia beat USA, redeem team.
Yeah, it was a moment. It was a good moment.
It depends on who perspective you're looking at. So
yeah,
It is definitely something that already happened and we can't change, but we can improve on.
so I guess next, if we're ready to move on, I guess Lone Star versus UT. In my head, I think of what was that World Cup? Was it 7?
Is it so? Are we talking about their arc or like the game that's on the highlight reels?
Like
I think we're talking about the finals.
Yeah.
Where Isabella Gong's like photo, I just think of a couple photos that are on like the cover of Quidditch Turns 10.
Yeah,
that's what I was
8, right?
I think that was 7. I think that was Myrtle Beach.
That was A&M.
Mary's saying
no, that
World
was
Cup
Texas
8,
State
so.
versus UT was in Myrtle Beach.
Yes, that was that one. Okay.
Yeah, so 8.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I win this round of Guess the Year.
Jeopardy. Of Jeopardy.
They all blend together for so many wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, I don't know what the numbers are. I just know what year things happened in, and I know that because of where we were.
Yeah, they all blur together. But that's why, like in Jeopardy, they're like, where was this? And I got the wrong South Carolina, Lake City. But anyway, World Cup 8, Lone Star versus UT. Yeah, so I remember just the energy was crazy. I just remember, and I think it was kind of like the lights were on, and it was neck and neck, never like out of snitch range.
That was the year of the first year of Swiss. So it was the new exciting format, which kind of went a little not as great as that format can always go. And man, this year was going to be so nice. But that was the first year of Swiss. And so getting to the finals was a little bit different, even though there was still like, by then everybody was like, we're in the bracket. I know what's happening. I know how we need to get to the finals. That was also like I think Mary said like her first one, we were starting to do change in leadership of the league. And it was also like Augie's last year at UT, a couple other people's last year at UT. And it was a lot of people were like, okay, I'm gonna do Lone Star. This is gonna be the year that we win it. And then the next year was, I believe, when they were like, okay, this year is gonna be the year that we're going to win it.
I just remember too, like around that time was like when some people started obviously like aging out of Quidditch, like graduating and going to community teams, and everyone was that was when I think that discussion kind of started amongst like community versus college split. So like having a college team versus a community team that was just like basically all the UT players versus like all the graduated UT players was kind of exciting for me to watch, because it's like it really, like as someone said, it was bonkers, and it really was like, it was bonkers. Like you just see all these people who know each other so well literally like dying to win another title.
That was also the end of the Bristol Brooms, right?
Oh, thank
Yep.
gosh.
That was
and like
the last Olivants.
I remember Stu snitched that, which he is the showman of a snitch.
Yeah.
So
I just, the snitch grab with the iconic picture of UT screaming with the snitch. So just crazy energy there. That's all. I don't remember the game too much, just I just remember the atmosphere of how it felt being there watching.
What about that like rivalry, would you say, like how like Texas versus Texas, like, because I feel like every tournament, that every major one that I've been to, where like it almost turns into Texas versus everybody, and then once Texas has taken out everybody, it's really sort of like this vibe of like you really don't know what's gonna happen. And I feel like it goes from like, okay, like let's root to the underdog, to like now like let's just hope that no one dies, because these teams are so intense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the games that I most enjoy watching between teams that are located within the state of Texas are just between UT and A&M.
Yep.
Like, do y'all remember that when we were at Round Rock the first year, and due to the Swiss pairings on Saturday night, UT played A&M in the third game slot? That was wild, because there was a lot of UT and A&M parents and fans there too, because it was in Round Rock. Like, and that game was enjoyable and intense and a fun time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time I saw them play each other was in World Cup 5, I think.
Yes, that was like, that happened too.
I was like an AR in that game, and it just felt like they were gonna play until like the last person standing, like literally, like whatever it took, to win it out. If it took everyone else but one person to remain standing, like that's what it was gonna.
Well, and like that was back when our whole region was like pissed that they were both playing each other so early, because we all had like specifically not released any Southwest film, any Southwest scores, because we wanted to get rid of the Northeast dominance in this sport, and we wanted nobody to know what was coming for them. And so the fact that that game happened so early in the bracket was disappointing for us, but also we were like, I mean, we're trapped on an island and nobody has food. So that's depressing also. There were a lot of other problems at that point too. But yeah, like that game was intense. And I know that
I think we're gonna
yeah, the players from Texas didn't never stopped regretting losing that game. So that's what brought them back.
Yeah.
Keeping on top of beating Texas, what about UR versus UT? Was that at 9?
Yeah, that was in Round Rock.
Yeah,
that was
10.
Whatever. I don't know the numbers. I just know it was the first year in Round Rock, 2018.
No,
Yeah.
that was
Right?
that was
11.
that was my last. That was my last nationals before I moved back and didn't play for Lost Boys anymore. So
we're gonna get roasted for the numbers, but we remember what happened. I promise.
Look, we already said we don't remember the numbers. So.
That one I was like so beat up after my game against Lone Star in the Final Four. I couldn't even walk. I was limping to the sidelines to watch the game because I'm gonna watch the finals. And I just was like, before it started, like, oh, UT's just gonna pull it out for sure. Like, there's no way U of R is going to hold their own against UT, but then they kept staying in it. Like, UT couldn't pull away. They stayed within, snitch range, and then Piscataway caught the snitch. So
UT's beaters weren't together. Like, they just weren't together. That was it.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at that game and you look at even the Australia USA one, it's like the reason you remember those games are because the underdogs win, right? Like, everyone was kind of tired of Texas winning. As much as we talked about the Northeast dominance, like, everyone's tired of Texas winning. So it was really exciting to see.
Like 10 years later.
True. And when you say the dominance, I'm like, it was Middlebury. I was going to say Maryland. That's not even in the Northeast. So. Yeah, Maryland never dominated anything as much as Mike Madonna might like to,
Oh.
They do have technically the Mid-Atlantic regional titles.
I think Harry may be listening in on this. So.
Yeah. The Canadians are nice, but they got the one Canadian who likes to talk shit.
Oh no. But well, so something that I also think about a lot of people always bring up a game against UT, or a game against Cal, or a game against Lone Star, a game against any team from Texas. It's because, I think it looks different also to people when they're seeing these teams play once a year in the finals, as opposed to seeing them even just also at regionals or also at every tournament throughout the year. Because if you are only seeing these teams in the finals, then it's easy to see why you might think that they're infallible. Like, if you're from Northeast and you watch Rochester play every year and throughout the year, and you're just like, I don't know, can they do it? I know these details about this team and these details, but Texas always looks great. Like, they always look great once a year. And that's not to downplay Texas at all, because the fact that we can see them throughout the year, it's like, yeah, we know what kind of work their program is putting in, but we also know what kind of work the programs that they're playing against are putting in, and building the whole region up in that way.
Yeah, I guess if you're, playing them throughout the season, their strengths, but you also know, their one kryptonite weakness, I guess, as well. So
yeah, everybody
really know them.
Everybody, it's not that everybody is bad. Everybody is good, but not perfect.
Yeah. And I just remember, it's obviously being from Canada, we have a pretty, all the Canadian teams have this close bond with Rochester. All the teams there. I mean, everyone loves Rochester. It's hard to not love Rochester, except if you have to travel there for regionals a bunch of times if you're the Northeast.
Total
but-
sports experience.
yeah, exactly. But like they're so kind and exciting to watch, and just good people that like we're like watching it, and I'm just like, they're good. I just didn't think they were champion good, and I was like, wow, like they're going for it, and I was just so excited watching and like cheering for them, because like it was just sort of like the team that we all like. Even when you talk about MLQ, like Rochester for a while had all the Toronto folks before the Raiders were around, right? So it was kind of like our team that we were rooting for. Yeah, it's bad that you can drive there without a GPS.
Yeah, a lot of the regionals were in Rochester, so
Yeah, I have a shirt from the place because they gave them out for free. So me and Sarah Woolsey are dodgeball champions of Total Sports Experience.
Really
nice.
I use it when I have this recurring, when I'm really lazy, Halloween costume where I go as Total Sports Experience, because I have the TSE shirt and I have these leggings that look like mud tracked up grass. It's perfect. Maybe wear a jacket or 3, raincoat, but
the one year that we went to the regionals in Rochester, it was, I believe, me, Claire Hutchinson, and our friend Marilyn. So we go down, we're having a good old time. I think Claire was staying longer than me and Marilyn, and we go back, and on the drive back, like a tire gets popped. We have like Ottawa just has this bad luck of when we go to Rochester or like America getting back. So like it was like the 5th road trip there where like something bad just happened. Our tire popped. We were stuck in like with no cell phone service because we're in another country. Can't even like change the tire because it's like hailing out and my hands are frozen and Marilyn's kind of crying. I'm like, and it's a rental car. So it was just a disaster, but love Rochester, love Total Sports Experience. They're great. Only place I would willingly go to knowing I won't get home safe.
I went to one of the Rochester regionals, flew there. My flight gets there. Obviously it's snowing. It's Rochester. Get down. The like flight attendant was like really flirty the entire flight. We land. I go to the hotel. Turns out the flight attendant is like also at the same hotel, like recognized me, still being like flirty, like was like, we're having like a party in our like room, like, and I was like, no, sorry, I got a Quidditch tournament to play tomorrow, sorry. But I'm looking at the chat. Anyway, that's my Rochester story. Yeah.
Let's move on, I think. What about the split, like community college split?
Oh, that split?
Was it the IQA?
I was like, it says split.
There's been a lot of splits.
I also was
I was like,
wondering,
is this the IQA USQ?
Okay, well, because like the IQA USQ one was kind of like more relevant to us, maybe.
Yeah,
I was
like
that one.
thinking it was the college community, but I could talk
all right,
about
so the summary of the college community split is that it is very good for everybody involved. And I can tell you why if you don't know why, but I feel like everybody knows.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say there's not too much to talk about. I think it's a great decision.
Yeah, like
so I have I wore this for a little bit of history. So this is the USQ logo, but it says IQA because it was before the split happened, or right when the split was happening, and they had to get rid of all these jackets that they were selling because it had said IQA but was going to be now the USQ logo. So
you should probably never throw that in the washing machine because it's probably so old it'll fall apart.
Yeah, I've almost lost this a few times over the years.
Yeah.
but nope,
But,
still have it.
I guess the split, so like it was what 2014 when we split.
15. Well, like the summer of 14.
Yeah. So the season of 14-15.
Yeah. Because 14 there was still like there was an Australian team at the 2014.
That was
World
Myrtle
Cup.
Beach, right?
Yes, that one
Okay.
was Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. So yeah, so then 2014-15 was
I think it's 7 because the logo went kind of like this.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you what the logo was. But I think, yeah, like that split was, I remember it being as like the world is falling.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah. Like I was really upset about it as a Canadian because I'm like, I liked playing against all the Northeast teams pretty frequently because of I'm going to get so much shade for this, but like at the time, there were like 2 other good Canadian teams besides my team. And so I was like, this is not going to be competitive. This is not going to be fun. Because like I personally play for like the competition. I love like all the people in the region. I'm gonna get so much shade, but I love all the people. But like sometimes you weren't on the strongest of teams, so it was like I really wanted to just play against some of the top teams, and that wasn't seemingly possible anymore. And I was so upset about it personally, but it's been so good for us in the long run.
Yeah, like I remember at first like being like working for the IQA at the time. All of my teams had like international members in it, and it was just like, this is so good for the sport. We're all collaborating. And then pretty much at some point we were working really hard to try to get rid of off-pitch seeking, and the big barrier was that like the US was super for getting rid of it. I don't remember what Canada said, but Europe was like, no, we love it. And the IQA like staff kept saying like, sorry, more countries love it than hate it, so we got to keep it. And so like as soon as like that was the first thing that was brought up, it's like, well, maybe split is good.
Yeah. I think Canada was a little 50-50 on that point in particular, but I was pro get rid of it, and we'll get into that later. But
oh yeah, we'll get into that.
Good riddance, is all I can say.
Yeah, I was also volunteering for the IQA prior to the split, and then after the split, I wasn't anymore. But people in the chat probably know that story, but
that's a different
the
split.
refs, that's a different split.
Yeah. Chat brought up a good point that there was one Canadian team that got to stay in USQ, or one region, sorry, our West Coast got to stick around just because there wasn't really many.
That was
Canadian
the
teams.
Megazord. That was the original Megazord.
I don't even know what a Megazord is.
That's what it was like when they did that whole, and this region is the West Coast of North America.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that was the like all the staff comments were like, the Megazord. The Megazord.
I was like, yeah, I know that.
Power Rangers. Like
please.
I don't know who knows what anymore.
I'm gonna get so much flack for all this. I'm not that young, Beasley. Anyways, but yeah, I just think the split ultimately, like looking back, it's like a good example of like when everyone like freaks out to an announcement and being like, oh my god, this is gonna kill the sport. Why are we doing this? And like long term, it's helped UC develop Canada more because we can devote all of our resources to it. For the US, I'm sure it's been great.
Oh, nice. No, it really did go well. Like, I think overall, great.
Mm-hmm. Good one. Okay, a fun topic: fantasy tournaments, fantasy Quidditch.
Yeah.
Did either of you play in the first one, the first ever the fantasy?
The Snow Cup?
No, I never.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was.
I never made it to the fantasy.
All right, so before the fantasies, there was Snow Cup 3, 2. 3 was, I didn't go to 3, it looked cold. 2. which was like quasi fantasy, where a bunch of us were on a group chat and we said, here's what the teams are gonna be. And then there were a couple of like blockbuster trades, or like occasionally somebody new would be like, I think I'm gonna go to this tournament, and it was a race to draft them or like not draft them. And so that's how we formed, like, because there were real teams at that tournament. Like there was Utah, there was NAU, there was Moore Park, there was the Denver Dementors, there was BYU, and then there was FYSU and Oxgas. And Oxgas sucks, by the way. That's all I got to say about them. And yeah, so, and it was fun. And that's like also Snow Cup kind of built up from there, and that's when it started becoming pure fantasy after that. And that was also around the time that people were discussing, like, what if we did a pure fantasy tournament with drafts? And that's when over the summer 2012 they started doing those options such as the fantasy and all of the other copycat tournaments. And yeah, I was at the fantasy. I was drafted by Mitch onto the pink team. And so I know that a lot of people have differing opinions on what is the ideal number of players for a team at a fantasy tournament. And I personally am going to go with 11. But I know that
cardio then.
Yeah, because if I'm going to this tournament, I would like to play at the tournament. And anyway, our team had 10 players. Every other team had like 17 players, because that was the very first auction draft that anybody did, and nobody put caps on anything or minimum team numbers. And like, we did not win that tournament, but it was fun.
Yeah. My first fantasy was Northeast Fantasy, the very first one on a certain island that we'll probably talk about too, but where Steve DeCarlo, I believe, organized it, got his money stolen from his shoe. Sarah drafted Kedzie first overall, and then he dropped, and she had her infamous...
Not me, Sarah. Sarah will see.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Had her infamous little speech about that moment when he dropped.
About how she...
She may... I'm not gonna allege anything, but she was very upset about losing Kedzie. But that was like honestly one of the most fun tournaments I'd ever been to. Like the only one I'd been to before was like Global Games, so I'm like, oh, like let's just go to this thing later in the summer, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. I played on Jam City Swag, which is the best
Yeah,
team.
I was gonna ask. If this was Jam City Swag.
If Jamie reffing the final hadn't let Heather not bully him into just not ignoring every beat.
Yeah, she scared me. I don't remember.
I could tell. Because I hit her with a dodgeball and she said, that didn't hit me. And you said...
Oh.
She's not over it. I just like, who ended up winning that Northeast?
The pink team. It was her team. That was the final.
Billy Greco.
Mike Sanders.
Okay, I like Mike Sanders. Ethan winning kind of disappoints me.
Disappointed everybody. We were the people's favorites. Jam City Swag.
Jam City Swag on paper looked like they were gonna run that tournament. They had all the Team USA players from 2012 on it, and
we just did not have not following the rules on our side. Oh, Glitter is next year.
Okay, because I remember there being glitter at one of those, and I was like, not it. That is not.
Oh yeah, we were glitter flies. It was the next year, and then the year after that, was Hawaiian theme. Being on Benny's team was always the most fun. Like, sorry for anybody who wasn't on his team, but he was the best.
So if you had to pick like one fantasy team that you loved playing on, or like we'll never forget, like you would go buy the jersey, which team would it be on? Was it Jam City?
Ooh. I don't know. I have been on a lot of fantasy teams. I have a soft spot for the one that I drafted for Snow Cup in a year, 2015, which was when I truly met Emily Hickmott, drafted her, and several other people. We were the Mighty Mutant Power Turtles. That was the year that, if you ever hear about Tad throwing the bludger and hitting the child, that was us. However, again, the only reason that the bludger hit the child was because the child was significantly closer to the field than like their parents. And also the player that Tad threw the bludger at, Doug, dodged the bludger, which, a good Quidditch move that an audience member maybe should have been prepared for. It's not like he went out there and purposely threw a ball at this child. Child got herself into it.
You can never believe this truth there.
Okay, well, you can believe me.
I believe
I was right there.
But maybe Tad convinced you, and it wasn't,
Listen, I am still Tad's mom. Except, look, Robin is number one. We love Robin.
Yeah. I'd say like my favorite fantasy team, probably the last time I won Canada Fantasy. There's just so many, it's hard to pick.
I'm kidding. My favorite fantasy team was Booze Brawl, the orange team. We won that tournament like easily, but also like it was a fun team. It was a great team. It was Nick Jablonski and Drew Bregas drafted that team. I was on it with Cole Travis, Joe Wright, some other people. There's a very, very blurry picture of us winning it. But other than that, I can come up with the people. Anna Hotard, somebody else. That was a fun team.
Yeah, I can't pick my favorite fantasy team. Canada Day Fantasy I always loved because it was on a Sunday. So and I was in grad school and I couldn't get Saturdays off. So any tournament on a Sunday was A+ for me. Snow Cup was always fun. I remember I don't know what year of Snow Cup it was, but I was drafted by Harrison, and I was on the White Russians.
Oh, that was like 2 years ago.
No, it was longer than 2 years ago for sure.
Okay, but, not counting this past year.
And like the quarterfinals, I got like a hand to the face, like bleeding out of like my eye, like down my face. Epic Quidditch photo. Used it for a Snow Cup trading card the next year. Yeah, but I think that was probably the most fun fantasy team I played for because we, gave it our all up until I was literally bleeding. I went to the urgent care and I was like, okay, we got to hurry this up. I have a snowball to get to. Gotta, get stitched up here so I could get to dancing. So
yeah. Mine, I have to go with the last Canada, like the Canada Fantasy 5. I think was just so much fun. So many, like, it was the first year that I like put my beefs aside and drafted some people I said I would never draft, and we won. So I let them finally get a title. So quit hogging the glory, but I love fantasy Quidditch. Like, fantasy Quidditch is honestly, I think, the best part of Quidditch. Like, the competition in the regular season's fun, but like getting to meet new people, having so much fun at these tournaments, like, it was just the best for me.
As long as the teams are small teams.
Yeah. As someone who has zero cardio, I prefer like 15. So my thing is, I'd always draft Jake Archibald because I would just be like, yo, Jake, I'll be your backup. Like, I'll play like 5 minutes a game. You play like 25. Like, take your break right before the snitch comes out. Like, we're good. Like, I got you. I don't need to play a lot. I just want to win. So
I was reffing a team that Jake was like on the the fantasy team for, and one play he's like taking the quaffle up the pitch and gets tackled, and he starts arguing with me like, yo, that was a trip, and I was like, no. And then he's like, how could it not have been a trip? I ended up on the ground. Like he was like, the only way I could have been on the ground is if they tripped me. Agree to disagree there, but
we've had some requests to talk about Randall's Island and World Cup 5.
I mean, yes, that's on the list. We can
just jump to it.
For sure jump to that. I'm fine with that.
How much time do we have? Because
yeah, I know. I'm looking at this list, and we're not close to being done with this list, and we're halfway through. So we can talk about World Cup 5.
Oh yeah, no, we can talk about World Cup 5. Where would we like to start, and where would we like to end?
Well, like let's like I joined Quidditch shortly after World Cup 5, so like I even have questions for you all on it because I've only heard like the Uado version, but I love the realties. So I heard there was some like shenanigans where Middlebury may or may not have been winning or losing a game, and so all of a sudden things had to be rejigged.
All right, so things had to be rejigged anyway. That game should not have been allowed to start.
Yeah, they messed up the seating of the bracket.
Yeah, but if you talk to anybody from Marquette, they remember that the game was allowed to start.
Yeah,
and they would tell you a different version. But that's the thing about World Cup 5 is everybody had their own special experience. Like Ottawa, I remember they brought drums. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool.
I want to say that the real controversy of World Cup 5 was if I had to leave early, but I then the next day watched the footage of the finals between Middlebury and Florida, and the game starts and I see the snitch is a Middlebury player, like is a Middlebury student, like just snitching the finals game against Middlebury and Florida, and not even just like a random Middlebury volunteer, like he literally was hosting the mid team at his house, like just outside the city. Like this was like a person affiliated with the team snitching the finals game. I did not, I don't know how that happened.
No, they were not so good at tracking and caring about affiliations back then. Wasn't that when Ethan ref Tufts games, even though he was officially affiliated with the team from his high school and coaching them, but he went to Tufts then, and he was like, why you put me on this team? Why you put me here? Like we had the girl that we brought who was solely reffing kept getting scheduled LSU games, and it's like, she's like, why? There are literally hundreds of other games that you should put me on, but why you put me here?
I remember that it was one of the semifinal games, and they come up to me and they're like, can you ref like this next semifinal game? And I was like, isn't that the one where Middlebury is playing Texas A&M? Like, I can't ref that game. Like, I am a Middle alum. So then they switched me. They put me on one of the like D2
Oh, you can just ref the mid-final then.
Yeah, no. But yeah, I mean, if I didn't, honor codes say I was affiliated with the school, like no one, they probably would have let me just ref AR. It wasn't HR, but AR that mid
someone who's had to like
A&M
semifinal. Don't take a ref where you can get them.
I will say Chris Beasley has a good point in the chat, which is that they were taking everybody. For example, I don't know if anybody has heard about Harry Potter Cape Ref. Did not like that guy. tried to goal ref, couldn't do it. There was a lot of cussing in that game. I spent all of Chris Beasley's lunch back when the island still had food on it, going over to the tent and yelling at him for 30 minutes about how terrible things were.
That was my question.
And I was right, so I have no regrets. But sorry about your lunch. You should have ate it when you had time, because again, that was back when the island still had food.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question. I heard there was only like waffles available or something.
So here's what happened.
The food was
so
not good.
Yeah, so every team was told ahead of this tournament that you're not supposed to bring food on the island. Bags will be checked, but your team can pay for like tickets to an unlimited meal service of this company that was going to set up on the island, and you could get a wristband to go in and eat, get water, any food, drink, anytime you want throughout the day, Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, they ran out of food by like before dark on Saturday, and then on Sunday they were just like, nah, why would we bring more? And so like, yeah, teams snuck things in. Something that I hear a lot is like teams being like, well, why didn't everybody just sneak enough food in? It's like, well, because they were specifically told not to.
Yep.
There's 100 teams. Some of them are high school teams. Like, occasionally teams do follow the rules, and like, yeah, people brought snacks, people brought like 1 or 2 water bottles, being told that there was going to be unlimited resources. Like, it just wasn't enough. Even the people who brought food rarely brought enough food. Like, I remember on Saturday, when we were one of the top seeds, we played all of our pool games on Saturday. After the last time that I drank water that day was after our second game. I was able to get a cup of hot chocolate before our third game because that was the only liquid available. And then our fourth game, I was like, well, I already drank something today, so I guess we're good. On Sunday night, after like me and 3 other players from LSU and Texas A&M shared a bag of chips that I had left over from Subway. It was not a good time. So, however, there was on the island a waffle truck. But because the other place ran out of food so quickly, and people didn't bring enough food, everybody was like, I guess I'll get in line for some waffles. So the lines, of course, like you could be in the waffle line for over an hour. Like, somebody gave me part of their waffle, and I was just like, I love you. Like, what did I do to deserve this?
That's like gold there.
Yeah, but like it's to the point that like, yeah, Uber used to not exist. No, that was not a thing. Also, it was extremely difficult, like transportation wise, to even get to the island. Like, it was the island.
Randall's island.
Yeah. But also like there was a big controversy because there was this whole, like, I guess Ben and P skipped the line at the waffle truck, and people did not like that. That was one of the big, like, oh, we got to fight against the man. Quidditch is getting bad. They're just letting their people skip the line when the poor players gotta wait. Like, it's to the point that, so years from then, one time when I was in New York again, I just was like standing on a street and I got really angry, and I was like, this is weird. What triggered this? And I turned around and I realized it was because I smelled that damn waffle truck. I was like,
I didn't even try to wait on that line. I was like,
yeah, no, I didn't either.
I guess I'm fasting today, and then this person, I'm like pretty much fasting all day Sunday. And then this person comes by with, I know that's it was mentioned in the chat, but this person comes by with selling these snitch witches.
Oh yeah, that was
like,
I was like, no, I don't.
Honey and golden grams between like 2 things of bread. I was like, give me 3 of those. Like, this is my meal on Sunday. Fortunately, my family I'm from New York City, and they were coming for the portion where we were in Icon Stadium. So it's dinner time, and I call them and I'm like, please smuggle me in a Subway sandwich. Like, grab me sweet onion chicken teriyaki sub, like foot long. Please smuggle it in. I have only eaten Snitchwiches for the entire day. Yeah, that was for me the biggest controversy of World Cup 5 was the lack of sustenance.
You know, that kind of reminds me of the next World Cup where we were in Florida and the water situation.
No.
Oh my goodness. Like,
but so like, remember after that, it became USQ started talking about how, we provide water. We have to provide water. It's like, yes, it's because of that, because the players revolted, because we formed a separate league that promised people to have water at tournaments and promised to
all right.
And we promised to certify and test referees, and then USQ was like, yeah, we were gonna do that anyway. Here you go. And like, yeah, it's because of World Cup 5 that so many policies that you're like, why is this happening? It's because of that. Like, remember in Florida when USQ gave out the goodie bags, there was a water bottle in it. Like, refill this anywhere.
Well, do you remember what the water tasted like in Florida?
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
It was the worst thing that's ever been in my mouth. Like,
yeah,
but then we went
because I'm a good mom. I bought a lot of lemons for my team.
We went back to Kissimmee many years later, and for me the water wasn't as bad the second time. Second day, the second time was still a little sulfury. It's tasted like, but the first Kissimmee, you still couldn't drink the water out of those.
Your options were to drink it where it was like so cold that you couldn't taste anything. You just felt like your mouth freeze, or taste the alligator piss that it was. Like, that's really what it felt like. Yeah, but that World Cup was also a very fun one. I remember watching Bowling Green play and have the little run there when Dan was kind of hitting shots from pretty much everywhere on the field. That was a fun World Cup.
I didn't watch that game. I thought it'd be boring. Don't regret it.
Yeah, I think Texas A&M and UT were playing at the same time slot.
Yeah, that's the game that I was watching because we had just lost to Texas, which was anyway. We had just lost to Texas, and then Texas played UT, and we were all like, it's happening again. We meet in the bracket. And then other people were like, no, you should watch the Bowling Green game. And I'm like, I don't care about Bowling Green.
Yeah. I didn't even know where Bowling Green was, to be honest, and I still don't.
So the thing actually that was the like fun factual thing about trivia, Bowling Green doing well at that Nationals, is because they had placed dead last at the previous Nationals, which was World Cup 5. But that like the fact that there was a year and a half between seasons was what made things really exciting at Florida, like with Texas winning, like all of that. Like it was like, oh, we're in a new era. Look, UCLA is doing well when West teams were like trash at World Cup 5.
Well, I mean, UCLA did pretty well in World Cup 5.
World Cup 6.
After whatever?
6, they did well at 6. At 5,
World Cup 6, they made it to the finals.
Yeah. At World Cup 5, none of the West teams did well.
5, they lost to Middlebury like before going into the stadium.
Yeah.
No, the last West team that was eliminated at World Cup 5 was Cal against LSU.
Nice.
Which was only the last one, and only exciting because one of the field lights broke, and both of our teams had to wait on the starting lines for an hour because they kept telling us, oh, it's almost fixed, you can stay ready. Oh, it's almost fixed, stay ready. And like during that time, other Western teams were losing their bracket games, and they all just like came over because they're like, well, that's the only game left. So Yeah, that was like my least favorite game starting experience was waiting on the starting line for an hour, being told every 5 minutes, okay, get ready, we're about to start now.
Yeah.
Okay, get ready, we're about to start now.
Any other fun thoughts or memories of those World Cup, those days?
I can say some things, but I'll be here like
Yeah, we could go on forever. The
Yeah.
after
For a while.
party was, I didn't make it to it. I owe a lot of people.
Oh,
Thank you.
the Wizarding World after party was the best after party in my opinion.
I liked going on the rides. That's all. That is the only after party I've ever gone to for nationals.
I didn't make it, and I
I don't like them.
I have to thank Claire and you, Ottawa, for getting me back to Canada. I don't know how. I woke up in another country, and I appreciate them.
Yeah, like I really enjoyed that they let us into the theme park like by ourselves. I thought that was pretty cool. Years later, I met somebody. I know somebody who he was on a high school trip to Universal that year, and he was like, "Man!" Then one day they made us leave early, and I was like, "Was it in April?" It was.
Ruining his experience.
Yeah.
Oops.
But yeah, ever since then, they've always been like, we're gonna have an after party. It's bowling. I'm like, the last thing that I want to do after throwing a ball for 2 days is roll a heavier ball.
Honestly, though, one of the best after parties I went to, and I was Oxford. Like,
well, yeah. I'm talking about like World Cup after parties are trash, but like that was good.
I bet, like, for those who don't know, we got our own club. Benepy managed to get us a club in Oxford where it was just all the players, and
it was like Hawaiian themed.
Benepy had fun that after party. Yeah. Benepy had fun that after party.
No one had shirts on, and it was like, wow.
I know. So you got to provide context to that story.
There's not a lot of context.
No, there is. So at Middlebury, we have a tradition. When you play the song "Like a Prayer" by Madonna, everyone has to take off their shirt. So we're at this after party, and Benepy grabs the mic. He's already been having fun for a while. And he's like,
at that point?
You're all descendants of Middlebury. You're all mid players now. You're all mid people. So here's the tradition, and you all have to partake in the tradition. And he just explains it. And then he starts playing this, like he makes the DJ start playing this song. So it wasn't that just people just randomly.
Look, I showed up and there were shirts nowhere to be found, and it was okay. It was perfectly fine.
That was the context to that. There was a reason behind
no
that.
After parties ever lived up to it, because that was the first one I went to, and it set the bar way too high.
Yeah, that was a good one. The parts that I remember were good.
Okay. So Sarah.
Those and snowballs.
Sarah, you had some thoughts on off-pitch seeking going away. What?
Yeah, I'm really glad we got rid of it, because I mean, anybody who remembers off-pitch seeking, like, it's not that it doesn't have to be all negative. Like, yeah, it sounds like a fun idea. It was fun if you were like actively, like snitching in 2008 and you're like, I'm gonna go in this tree, or I'm gonna go in this lake. Like look at them trying to catch up to me on top of this fence. But then like literally every other part of that is like, oh, come on. And then like, so it got like really depressing, because like you'd be playing a game and then like a seeker would come back and be like, yeah, I caught it. You'd be like, oh, so the game is over now. Yeah. All right, cool. But like the word, it just kept getting progressively more difficult to handle, as far as like, being a real sport and being consistent in rules and fairness. And like, okay, so if the snitch can go off the field, can the seekers go off the field to chase them? And for a while, I was like, yes. Okay, so if the snitch and the seekers can go off the field, can the beaters go off the field to chase them? And at first it was like, yes. And then later it was like, whoa, no. And then we were in this terrible middle ground of beaters having to just kind of like stand at the edge of the field while the seekers like the snitches specifically trying to keep the seekers off the field, and beaters just being like, I'll try this throw. If my both feet are in bounds, then it'll count. And if one of them is not, and the ref is a typical 2013 ref, it will not count. And then once the ball is off pitch, there's like, how do we bring the ball back to the pitch legally? And like, of course, like being on rules, we knew that like, you know, there's so many small little rules that we can fix by just saying like, everybody's got to stay on the field the whole time.
Yeah.
And of course, that was back, as I referred to, the IQA was really big on polls. And they were like, okay, you can propose this rule as the official rules making body of this sport, but in order for it to go into an effect, we need to agree with the results of the poll.
Oh no.
Mhm.
And it didn't agree with the results of the poll because, as we said, all of the European countries and like were like, nah, we think it's fun. So we just kept not having that. But then we had a very harrowing experience called the Flood Cup, which was the Western Cup 5, in which there was record rainfall in Phoenix, and all of the facilities kicked us out. And this is such a short summary of it. The final result was that we were finally able to play games at this one specific indoor facility that had one outdoor field. It had 2 indoor soccer fields and 1 outdoor but enclosed soccer field. And the only way, like at that point, we just looked at me and the other tournament staff were like, you know, we don't want people chasing snitches on the concrete between these facilities. Also, yeah, that was another thing. On the outdoor field was the only field that players were even allowed to wear cleats on. The facility was the only facility that would allow us to play, and only during specific hours. Like games were from like 3 to 11 p.m. on Sunday, and from like 8 to something on Saturday, and then like at 8 a.m. on Sunday. And on the indoor fields, they did not allow cleats because it was like that really not great turf that's just basically like green carpet. And they were like, yeah, so you can't wear cleats on here. We don't really want you to wear like tennis shoes. Would you like to wear some socks? Like, we don't like that at all, but we would like to not all fly to Phoenix for nothing. And yeah, just it became a point where it's like, you know what if we just made the seekers stay on the fields, because they're literally enclosed. It was like playing on a hockey rink. And it worked. There were a few things at that tournament that did not work, but it worked. Another fun feature of that was like, look, we don't even have to worry about where the seeker goes during the seeker floor. All we need to worry about is whether or not the snitch, whether or not we have a snitch at 18 minutes, which was great. I love finding snitches at 17 minutes. Be like, you're on.
No.
Would you like to do it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, now.
Yeah.
But that way they don't have to think about, where am I going to go hide? So yeah, the fact that worked, and then that combined with the split finally allowed us with USQ to be like, let's make this rule.
Yeah, I think that was a huge quality of life improvement. And like from like even a gameplay point of view, like back in the day, a lot of teams would have one of their better players typically be a seeker, because they were usually more athletic and could grab the snitch. But along with that came with like one of your more athletic players being gone for like 20 minutes or whatever. So that's not good if you want to win.
There's another rules timeline on this that I can quickly summarize too. So originally also like it was just a minimum 2 of the minority gender. But then like I remember that was, I don't know how it was enforced elsewhere, but I know that for us, we thought that every position counted towards that until when we arrived for World Cup in 2008. And at the captain's meeting the night before, they were like, yeah, by the way, the seeker doesn't count towards the gender minimum because you can't always see them because sometimes they're really far away. And us being a team that trained, like we brought 9 people to that, we were like, oh, I love strategy change in 12 hours. Cool. And then for years that stuck, and the seeker did not count towards any of the gender requirements. And it was like I remember doing a big series of debates in like 2012 a year about like there were a lot of years where I kept thinking like, are we going to get it this time? Are we going to get it this time? And it was like, finally, through a big series of debates, way more work than it needed to do, we got it to where the seeker can actually count again. And that's why, like, I think it's really cool that, like, I mean, I know that I'm oversimplifying this in terms of gender, but like girls playing seeker again is really cool because for a while it was just really discouraged for that position. Like I played seeker in official games 10 years apart because it just practically did not make sense for our team in the meantime. And like there's so much development that can start with that, but only recently. So yeah, I get upset when people are like, they're just gonna throw a girl at seeker. It's like, okay, but that position is underdeveloped and they are going to actually try to develop it as opposed to you who are like, nah, we don't do girls at seeker. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
What about,
sorry. I was just going to say 2 cents about off-peach seek. One, I think getting rid of it is good. I also think getting rid of the snitch shenanigans, was also amazing.
Yeah, I hate the snitch spectacles. They're like, no, I can.
Spectacles, whatever we call it. But back in the day when it was off-pitch seeking, you like, the seeker goes out, they catch it, then it's like, do I secretly try to like stay here for a little bit while while like my team maybe like there's like a decision they have to make. I mean, they're supposed to by the rules like run right back, but it's like, do I do a slow jog back? Do I like sprint back? Like, how do I think my team's doing? Like, I don't want to get back and find out we're down by like 60 points and we lose. Yeah. So then the second one was so I was on the ref development team and we were trying to figure out like how to ref the position of like snitch ref when they're off the pitch for forever. So it's like, do we have the snitch ref follow the snitch, but then like now the seekers can look either for the snitch or someone wearing ref stripes because they know that like the ref is going to be looking at this like in eyesight of the snitch. So, or do we have the snitch ref following the seekers, but what if the 2 seekers go off like in different directions? Like it was
how many times during that era did y'all like were you at a tournament, start having conversation with somebody and then one of y'all goes, actually I'm snitch reffing right now, I gotta get back? Like
too many times.
Yeah.
I've been used as like a bodyguard because I'm a pretty big person. They were like, oh shit, here's a seeker's block for me. And I'm like, what? Like, huh?
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy that ended. And I also remember like some teams would just like dedicate putting a player who maybe wasn't very strong to go look for a snitch for 20 minutes. And that term that they use wasn't always like nice.
We always just called it a decoy seeker, and then like it was always like, our decoy seeker is good this time, and that was just an interesting phrase to just say around people when you're just like on campus at lunch. You're like, we got a good decoy seeker. It's like, what's going on?
That's a much nicer term than the one that I had heard previously.
So I'm sure. Yeah. We liked our decoy seekers usually turned out good, or they were people who could run for a long time, and so they would run, find somebody, and then come back and play the full rest of the game. So
yeah. So moving on I don't even know what the time difference was, but MLQ starting, that was
2015.
Yeah, but like, was that how much later than off pitch was that? Was that like 2 years, a year, 1 year later?
Something like
That's
that.
It was
what.
around the same time. Which like I think came at a good time because like that's when the sport was really developing into sort of the competitive beast that it is now, which is really nice. And MLQ starting, I remember hearing about it from Ethan, and I was like, yeah, good luck. Like, no one's going to start a second league. But
Whoa.
if
Someone
whatever you need,
started
I'll
a
help
second
you.
leagues.
A third league, maybe.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'll support you however it is, but like, I don't know about this. And obviously, MLQ has become so popular now and is really great. So, like,
Yeah.
what do you guys remember from the start? Like, were you involved in the first year?
No,
I
it's in the
was still in
Northeast.
grad school with no time being free. So no, I defended that the August after that summer, and then got a postdoc at Southern California right when they announced that they were expanding to the West Coast. So I was super excited, like, yes, I'm gonna get to represent, or hopefully get to represent Los Angeles. Wings up. And I think it's just really fun getting to, instead of just playing for your regular season team, like feeling like you're representing your city.
Yeah.
I never had with the teams that I had been on before, with just the regular season USQ, never really felt like I was representing my city,
Mhm.
So I just think, there's just energy associated that for me when I'm like
Yeah.
Los
So
Angeles.
that first year of it, I actually was a coach for Ottawa. Now, let's be real, Aaron did a majority of the work, but I was a coach in title. And it was really fun. Like at first I kind of had to be sold on the idea of like what MLQ was. But once we got into it, it was like really exciting. And, we had a pretty fun team in Ottawa. The results didn't speak to how good that team really was. But looking at it, like I remember our very first game was against Boston. And this was like before anyone knew that Boston was going to be like the juggernaut that it was. So we play them and they like thrash us in like a series. Like I don't even think we like scored more than 80 points combined across the games. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like these teams are for real. And going then, played Washington and going to New York for our first away game. The vibes were really, really fun. And it was like at first I wasn't sure about MLQ, and then really quickly it became something that I was like so down for all the time. Like every summer I was like, okay, like let's watch the series, let's go to a game, let's do whatever it is, because they were so much like such a high level competition, and that's what I live for. Like I love the competition. And someone brought up, yeah, bringing US versus Canada back into the mix was really fun, because that was something I desperately missed.
Yeah, something I think is fun about MLQ is not what as much what everybody else seems to think is fun about MLQ. Like I think that people try to talk about it as this like very homogenous league of everybody is always competitive all the time and it's always all the best players. But like I think that it's doing the cities that it's in, it's great for them in different ways. Like I think that like you have like the Bostons and that sort of thing where like it is a highly the best very good players. But then if you get to like New Orleans, like we don't win a lot of games, but we also constantly have to play against the teams that are winning every nationals. But for us, it's like a fun summer rec league. And I also like it's not to say that we aren't like trying to win, because I can't play if I'm not trying to win, I'm not having a fun time. But like I just think that the vibes are really different across different teams in the league.
Mhm.
And that's kind of nice. Like I really like my the curse teammates are just really, we are all a very distinct group with each other, and I'm glad that we all get to play together in the summers. But like, it's to the point that a lot of us, like a few of us definitely play competitively for USQ, but there's a lot that don't, and like that's our fun time together in the summers is playing with Chris. A lot of us have birthdays then. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's always kind of funny when people are like, yeah, I wonder if I'm gonna make the 30-person Boston roster, and like us and usually like Kansas City are like, hey, we're looking for a 15th person to come to this event. Interested?
Yeah.
No, it's only 14 hours between us, so like, you know, one for every person on each roster. Come hang out. It's fun.
Yeah, the teams definitely have their own vibe and different feel, which I think is kind of cool seeing how they've like developed all these years later. But I live for MLQ season. Like it's perfect. It's when I can actually like kind of pay attention. So I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I had amazing times playing an MLQ 2 seasons, and then I was the manager for my 3rd season at West. Unfortunately, they downsized when I moved back to the East Coast. So when I moved to the West Coast, MLQ expands. When I moved back to the East Coast, MLQ sort of gets smaller again. So it
interesting
may have been my fault. Yeah, it may have been my fault.
Correlation or causation.
But I hope, you know, it is able to expand back out west at some point. It was super fun playing with those Los Angeles players. So.
And one thing I love about MLQ is like they're not afraid. Like we're not afraid to try new rules out, like introducing two-hand tackling.
Yeah.
Like those things.
Yeah.
Were like huge quality of life improvements on the sport.
Yeah, like it's perfect for that. Like as somebody who has been doing rules for 11 years now, it's like being able to test rules people like is something that I always want to do, and MLQ is a perfect environment for it.
Yeah.
And like that's one of the reasons that I worked really hard to make sure that we kind of push back our release dates a little bit so that we can, because in previous years it's always like, oh, why didn't you take this MLQ rule that we used in the summer? It's like because the rulebook was published in the middle of that game, like.
Yeah.
But like we've been working out the calendar a little bit with them is going to be great for the sport overall.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's maybe move on to some other fun things. We've had some requests to talk about 12-12-12.
Yeah.
Justin, maybe you want to take it away?
No, Sarah's definitely taking this one for sure.
All right, here's
I'm not taking this one away from Sarah.
Look, that is my tagline. I coined that. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So here's what happened. December 2012, I had 2 ear infections. Spent some time at home. I was not the only one who spent some time at home. There was this argument that started on the IQA All the Regions page, which was the only place to talk to players from all the regions of the International Quidditch Association on Facebook, which is where you were going to go talk to them because forums were like down and then up and then down again. And and there was a big debate over like, now that we had the 2012 damn it, what's it called? The expo, the global games.
Sorry. I was like, where are we going here?
It's been a very long day. Now that we had the 2012 global games, we saw teams like Australia are getting into it. We saw a lot of nations compete against each other. What's going to happen? There's going to be some sort of like QuidCon coming up where people are going to talk about their ideas for the sport. Sounds nerdy. I didn't go.
This is my first QuidCon, so
like just a big, huge point of contention became how is Australia ever going to be able to compete with the US if they outlaw tackling? And the response to that was Australians players saying, no, it's better that we outlaw tackling. You should do it too, or your players will never be as good as ours, which was a bold statement to make in December of 2012. December 12th, 2012, because the date is actually when this argument happened. And it became a huge debate in a thread about whether American Quidditch was better than Australian Quidditch and which rules or local rules may have influenced that, or local modifications to the IQA rules, and whether or not the American League should adopt more Australian rules, which was interesting because it was the IQA at that time, and I was like, why? I have seen that no Australians have applied to join any rules teams, so okay. And anyway, people, because this is, a very loving community, people kept coming into this post and being like, we're attacking people today. So there started being more attacks. So then that was when some of us already knew this, but not everybody knew this because a lot of people were new to online Quidditch at that point. The moderator of the IQA All the Regions group was Australian and started banning Americans. So those Americans made multiple new groups. One of them was American Quidditch, just all caps American Quidditch.
That's the one.
A really
I was
fun
not
one.
present, and then I just was somehow in this group. American,
a lot of pictures of dogs and eagles. And American flags.
Oh my god! And I was like, "What is going on? What is going on? Why am I in this American Quidditch group?" Because I was missing the argument somehow, and all of a sudden, I'm just in this
just
group.
Started
People
adding their friends. Yeah.
People are saying they got banned, and I'm like, banned from where? What are we talking about? So now I'm trying to find like
the drama,
backtrack to like the drama, like where they got banned, because I was in this random.
I mean, I wasn't helping. Every time somebody said, well, what about this? I just immediately kept responding to people, no, this is about America. No, this is about America. And then just started being like, man, there's a lot going on. 12, 12, 12, never forget. 12, 12.
Yeah.
And that became a thing.
And that day birthed so many groups. Like there was like Quidditch singles that came out of that. There was like all the gaming groups.
Yeah, that was also when there was also a big like controversy of like people being like, hey, why is just some person from Australia moderating this? And they were like, I mean, because I created this group and people joined it. And then the IQA was like, yeah, we don't moderate any of these groups. Want us to? And then they started doing that.
And ever since then, the dumpster fires of complaining in Quidditch groups have begun. Because there's been a lot of moments since then. Like people have been mentioning the tower.
Like IQA forums was that plus gender rule threads. Also just like when people would like, man, you knew when a tournament was coming up because everybody would post their GoFundMe, and it's like, yeah, that's cool, but like I don't want to scroll through 60 of these to get to a post that's actually talking about something.
Yeah, and Aaron had mentioned this was before like we had threads, so it was like a new post to respond to everyone's post. Like,
people would just be like, oh yeah, that thing that you mentioned 12 hours ago, I'd like to talk about it. And you didn't really, I don't think you could tag people yet all the time either. So it was like, Justin, I hope you see this. Like,
I didn't see it. I was very confused. It's like, show me more comments. I'm like constantly scrolling back, like, show me more. Sometimes it glitches out and you're like, wait, I'm back forward now. Like what happened? But I tried to look for American Quidditch group like recently, but I think it's gone.
Well,
But,
we're
yeah.
we're nearly out of time, so why don't we all kind of maybe bring up one of our favorite memories, stories, whatever it might be, that we haven't gotten to yet.
Well, I think
Because-
for Sarah, we got to talk about that World Cup 7 game.
Yeah.
I think.
Lost Boys.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting game. People like to talk about it.
I just have a question. Is that the game when Steve got hit by the pole?
He ran into the hoop, the
Yeah.
snitch. So the hoops were right here, and the snitch went like this, and Steve so like that was terrifying to me as a beater because Steve reached and the hoop stopped him from catching.
Yeah.
And I was like a little bit too far to get the bludger there, so that was depressing, but it turned out okay.
So why don't you tell us about that game though?
Yeah, so I guess what do people want to know? So that was the year that LSU did our worst performance to that date in pool play of nationals. We lost to U Ottawa right away, which is like ridiculous.
Choose your next words carefully.
It was absolutely ridiculous. We should not have lost that game, and it wasn't like y'all played great. We just played terribly.
You want to fight?
And
I wasn't even on that team. I was on a different one, but I will fight.
It's y'all, just like how any team associated with LSU is me. Like that's just it's just how it is. Okay. And then we lost to Tufts in like, you know how like everybody's like, oh, Gabe Garces is good. Nobody ever catches him very quickly unless you're Greg Bento and you're immediately catch him within like it was definitely less than 2 minutes. Didn't win that game. Then we played San Jose State. We won that game. We played Mizzou. We won that game. Anyway, so like we had a terrible seed compared to what we're used to. We had to play a play-in game against Stanford, and people were like, "Oh my God, LSU is seated lower than Stanford. Stanford probably going to win this game." And we were like, "Stanford not going to win this game. Like they got unlucky here." So we won that game. And then everybody's like, "Oh my God, LSU has such a terrible seed. And now they got to play the Lost Boys, who are like number 2 seed. And we all love the Lost Boys. They're our America's sweetheart.
That was their year.
Yeah, they're so great. We love them." Like, I have a lot of friends on that team, but also like we played the Lost Boys at Diamond Cup in February, and we lost to them because I made the wrong decision at the wrong time. And I'm sure other factors too, but I blame myself. And so I was not going to lose that game again. So yeah, we played that game. It was pretty exciting. It was another situation where like a lot of West teams had either lost or were about to lose, so they all wanted to come watch the game. A lot of Southwest teams ended up near that pitch too, just because I think that our game lasted a long time. So we had a pretty good sized crowd. We were scoring points. They were scoring points. It was their star-studded crew. It was our most star-studded crew too. We had an accidental weird subline where Melissa White, the greatest female player to ever grace the field, anybody can fight me on that, and she is the greatest. She played the whole first half of the game, then got concussioned in a tackle, and I played the second half of the game. So what a weird sub situation. The snitch was out. They kept being really close to catching him. We kept being down 30 points. Jason Wynn saw that Brad and all of our chaser line was about to score, and so he caught the snitch. So when Lost Boys could easily, if they hadn't looked at the scoreboard a second ago, have thought that it was going to be overtime, but they did not win the game. Mm-hmm. In fact, because we had got within 20. Then we played really terribly in our next game against Texas State and did not win that game. We were kind of tired. Um,
And that was the Texas State run to the finals, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
We were kind of tired. Melissa had a concussion.
But you beat the Lost
Yeah.
Boys, so that's all that matters.
Yeah. So
No, all that mattered would have been if we had won the tournament.
yeah.
Well,
Please.
but what matters historically is that then the Lost Boys split up and became still the Lost Boys or the Gambits, or just like went off and did their own thing. It changed the entire fabric of the nation. And then I played for the Gambits a couple years later. That was fun. Then before that though, I played against the Gambits and beat them in the bracket, which people thought wasn't going to happen. But
Yeah,
we had the hot hands, so.
So I had not yet joined the Lost Boys at this point.
Yeah.
So I was still on the East Coast, still doing my grad work. I am wearing the Lost Boys though, but I
This
knew
was the
I
opposite
wanted to
world
play for
year.
the Lost Boys. Yeah, so I was reffing a game when this was happening, like in the complete opposite end of the sports complex. And I was an assistant ref, and play had like sort of was not around me at this moment, and all of a sudden you just like hear whispers from the crowd, and like there's drama somewhere, something, and you hear like, yo, the Lost Boys just lost. The Lost Boys just lost. Like literally the news of LSU beating the Lost Boys like traveled through the entire place before like games were over that round. Like games that everyone knew that that LSU had beat the Lost Boys. It was and then what was it? US Cup 10 or something. I'm now on the Lost Boys. We are in the pool play with
Gumbo. We got
Gumbo.
Yeah.
We were with Gumbo. Gumbo's still like a lot of those same LSU players. I remember that was like a really close game. We pulled it out.
Yeah, it was overtime.
So, but because we won that game, Gumbo was seeded to play Gambits like first round in bracket again. And the Gambits were like a lot of those same people from.
They were the ones
Lost
who
Boys.
thought they left because of that game. Also, I love them, by the way. This is not like.
Yeah, I know you joined. You joined them later.
Yeah.
But it was like
beating you Ottawa was.
I also love winning.
It was unacceptable.
Look, I love y'all too, but we shouldn't have done that poorly.
It's all good.
It was like bookending the story, like LSU formed the Gambits like a few years later, like Gumbo, same people did the same thing to the Gambits.
That's the big takeaway from this entire panel, is that I prefer winning, and I will always try to do that. And unless I have won the tournament, I won't think it's really that successful. Like, yeah, cool, we won the game, but we didn't win the one that matters. So
exactly.
That's why I keep playing.
Some other things I saw people mention. So Beantown Brawl. I don't think either of you two were there.
I had to rule on whether or not the games should count. I remember getting like all of y'all's like, here's part of our Facebook message of how we were sleeping on this floor.
The madness that tournament was.
Yeah, I was very glad that I wasn't there. It sounded cold when I for that.
I don't know.
Like,
to me, that's not. I don't know it, so it's not.
It's like if you see history. The Northeast, I think the Northeast remembers but doesn't want to remember. But we essentially went to Boston for what was supposed to be a pretty big tournament in February. And there may or may not have been a snowstorm that completely through the whole tournament, indoor tournament, into WAC because teams couldn't get to the field. We had a shared coach that was supposed to take people there, and like it was just so late. My team never even made it to the fields. We decided to just basically do a tour of Boston. It was NBA All-Star weekend, so I was perfectly fine just having fun watching that and touring Harvard and whatever. But when you talked about those concrete carpet fields, we had those, and it was the party was more fun than the actual tournament because I didn't even make it to the tournament. So went to Boston to party. It was great. Yeah. So I'm just looking at the list. Is there anything that sticks out to you guys that we want to get in these last few minutes?
I'll talk about whatever gets brought up.
Yeah.
So I don't have preferences.
Well, Ball State versus UT, that was also brought up in the chat. Do you guys have?
I did not watch that game.
I didn't watch it. I heard Ball State won, but also like that year it was like another one of those points where it's like, yeah, UT is not infallible.
Mm-hmm.
And like other teams are good.
Yeah. Okay.
I did not watch the game, but we were interested in it because that meant that we were going to play Ball State that next game in the bracket, we being Lost Boys and not UT, because we would have had to play UT if UT won that. I see, yeah, in the chat. So that game, we were up against Ball State by so much. We were playing so well. And then Margot was chasing. They passed the ball to Ball State passes the ball to a wing chaser. Margot could accelerate to full speed, but he couldn't decelerate once he got to full speed. So the Ball State chaser bobbles the ball. So now, because of that bobble, is still in the process of catching the pass right when Margot just rams into the chaser. So they called it, defenseless receiver. Margot gets a red card. Ball State just went on like a run where, we scored no points. It's now tied. They ended up catching the snitch, so we didn't win that game. But that was an unfortunate game against Ball State. But I don't know if playing UT would have been any better. So yeah.
We got one question, and I think it might be a good one to kind of start wrapping up with. So what changed to the sport would you have been most surprised to hear about happening when you first started playing? Like, what's one thing that happened that maybe you never expected to happen?
So 2008, Sarah would not have expected two-handed tackling to be like allowed and actually ref well. Mm-hmm. But one change though that I do like to think about sometimes are early changes that didn't surprise me, but were really interesting when they happen. And it's like a, can you imagine if that happened now kind of thing. And those two things are removing the goal zone. Do you remember that, Bodie? Where there was a line around the goals and no dunking was allowed. You had to shoot from outside the line. And like that got removed pretty quickly, but still, like, can you imagine just like putting that in place today, or like having that and then taking it out today? Like that'd be crazy. Another thing was the removal of interpositional contact, because like main strategy as a beater without a bludger back then was to go tackle the opposing team's keeper. And then also another thing that we learned the night before at World Cup in 2008 was like, no, we're actually going to not let you do that. Or also learning at that tournament, oh no, you can only hold one bludger at a time. Like, so just like changes like that, it's like, okay, it wasn't that big of a deal at the time because it was still kind of new, but like if that happened later, like honestly, like any later, it'd be like a huge deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I recently went back and looked at Rulebook 1, which I had not remembered, but apparently I also, when I was trying to figure out talking points for this, saw and that Alex actually sent us an email like, here's my draft of like Rulebook 1, take a look at it. But like, if you're looking at that, it's like, I think punching was only like a yellow wand.
Yeah, it wasn't
First of all,
that serious.
It was
Yeah.
wands instead of cards. So there was a yellow wand and a red wand, and like punching was just a yellow. So that meant you just had 60 seconds in the penalty box after punching someone. And then I guess you could do it again before getting ejected from the game. You could like punch someone twice.
I
Yeah.
would have
Yeah.
loved that.
Oh, no, remember that year also where like the penalty box section just got left out? So it was like, yeah, you get a red one. What does it mean? Nothing. You just got one. Like
I don't remember what teams were playing, but these two teams were playing. These players, you know, on opposing teams got heated. They like look down, see that like neither of them have a ball, and then they just started to try and punch each other. And then the ref, who's right there, has no idea what to do, and just like picked up one of the players and just like rotated them. So now the ref just like put themselves in the middle of this fist fight to like just separate these people from punching each
there was
other.
also a lot of like, hey, you saw he punched me. They're like, nah, you're off broom though. Worse foul.
Yeah, it was like
Talk to me when you
no
got your
rules.
broom back.
No rules.
I don't
But
know how that was ever. Can you imagine, like, just having recordings of that game and showing them now to like new recruits for college teams? They would be like, "What?"
I mean,
what?
I posted the game
Oh, yeah.
footage of World Cup 1 and the
There's one that we have like back
Slack.
when slide tackling tackling was legal, and like
Everything
at
was
LSU
allowed.
we were always like, this shouldn't
Back
be legal.
tackles.
Why is this like I remember specifically asking at a captain's meeting, why is slide tackling still legal? And they're like, I think it's fun. It's pretty. They do it in soccer. It's like, no, what if we showed you these videos of things that happen when you slide tackle Quidditch players who are not allowed to wear shin guards? Like, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, you could do what, like, tackling at any part of the 360 circle around a player was like perfectly legal. So
Yeah.
I remember in a pickup game on a Sunday at mid, it was my senior year. I'm like driving to the hoop and this player just tackles me from behind. I didn't even see them because it's literally straight from behind. I did like a somersault, landed on my feet, kept running. They tackled me again from behind. And then I landed like straight on my collarbone. Was like, ow, that kind of hurt. Like, couldn't really lift my arm. Was like, I don't know. I subbed out. Like, they didn't even stop the game. Found out I fractured my collarbone. Like, it was just just rough out there. So whenever people are like, let's make a fantasy tournament with like the old rules, I was like,
yeah, I never want to go to those.
Yeah, I was like, can we do the old rules except for like going back to like what physical contact, but like, can we do the new safe physical contact, please?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put myself in that position anymore.
As soon as a rules team was formed, we got rid of capes. Like,
Gosh,
first day one. Like, and then teams still wanted to wear them. We had to make them optional. It's like, why?
Yeah, for like
it was another polling thing. It's like, you say no, but the crowd says yes.
I like the capes if it was the ones that you had like a backpack, not the ones like tied
so
around
who
your
made
neck.
those? Because like, were they the players?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who made those specific ones, but
because like at
sometimes
LSU we didn't have
players
like
made them.
private school money to get like
yeah,
Beautiful.
those you had
We
to have it as like a
actually-
backpack, or else you're like getting your like neck like pulled
Yeah.
back when
Well, we
someone, like,
actually,
pulls
our
you.
strategy with the capes was once we learned that as long as you start the game with capes, they aren't gonna get mad at you if it comes off, was we've specifically made them really poorly so that they could be torn away rather than choking us. Because we realized that the refs were like, if you tried to start without a cape, you couldn't play. You weren't allowed in. But if you started the game with a cape on, they were just like, guess it got destroyed in game. Oh well.
Yeah. So I guess
All
we're
right, I
reaching the
think-
time where, yeah, we
Yeah,
gotta wrap
time's
it
up.
up.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's probably fair. I can
that's
go to the
Quidditch
bathroom.
history. I guess if you want to, be immersed in Quidditch, you can also read the book that was written. This is how we fly.
Yeah,
I'm
and
currently
the book.
reading it myself. In it, it says, like, in the forums, an LSU player posts something about strategy, and a New York player argues. And I like to think, when I was reading it, that it was me with Sarah, but I would never argue strategy with Sarah.
It
That would
probably
not be a
was. Meanwhile,
smart
I was
move.
probably
That
I
be
would
a-
probably just like hit you because I'm sorry. It's me.
But
So.
I had fun. We should probably, when QuidCon can happen in person, I would very much like to catch up with you both. And
Yeah, I'd like to.
I was distracted most of the time with the people in the chat reading what they were saying. So I'd like to be able to also be there with the people in the chat.
yeah,
and
I want
you know,
2012 Oxford to
everyone
happen
chiming in.
2022 QuidCon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for everyone coming.
Yep.
Follow me on Instagram and have a great night.
All right.
Bye.